Have you ever trusted someone so much, only to realize they were your biggest mistake? Everything seemed perfect, until one moment shattered it all. But the real twist, that's still coming. You don't want to miss this. Dear listeners, before we move forward, please subscribe my channel to hit 1,000 figure. The sun beat down hard on the muddy banks of the river, where chaos raged endlessly like the churning current itself. Cannons thundered in the distance. Smoke curled above shattered trees. Union and Confederate soldiers screamed, bled, and died over a broken wooden bridge that had long lost its original purpose. It was no longer a passage. It was a symbol of stubborn madness. Blondie, calm, steely-eyed, cigarette dangling from the corner of his mouth, stood beside Tuco, both half covered in dust and sweat, hiding behind a stack of sandbags. Across the river, the Union Army was dug in tight. On their side, the Confederates refused to budge. Day after day, bodies piled up, and the bridge remained the ultimate prize in a war neither side seemed to remember why they were fighting. Tuco, ever the talkative one, crouched beside him and spat, "Idiots! They're killing each other for a damn plank of wood." Blondie didn't answer. His eyes never left the bridge, always calculating, always one step ahead. The two weren't there for war. They were there for the buried gold in Sad Hill Cemetery, a fortune hidden under the shadow of death. But to reach it, the bridge had to go. Only one way through, and Blondie had a plan. The relentless roar of gunfire echoed across the valley, masking Blondie's quiet, gravel-toned voice. He leaned in closer to Tuco, eyes narrowed behind the rising smoke of his cigarillo. "If that bridge falls," Blondie muttered, "they'll stop killing each other. At least long enough for us to slip through." Tuco blinked, his mouth half open, confused. "You mean blow it up?" he asked, almost disbelieving. "We get shot for thinking that." Blondie gave a small nod, eyes still cold and calm. "We don't think it. We do it." The two men slinked away from the chaos of the makeshift front lines like phantoms, moving behind trenches and broken trees, dodging patrols, stepping over the mangled remains of men who had died for nothing. The sound of men screaming, horses panicking, and officers yelling orders seemed to fade into a strange kind of background music, a soundtrack to madness. By the time they found the dynamite, the sun had dipped lower, casting long golden shadows over the blood-soaked battlefield. The munitions tent was poorly guarded. Most of the soldiers were too busy dying or trying not to. Blondie broke the lock in seconds. Tuco grinned like a devil when he saw the crates. "TNT, baby," he whispered, his gold-toothed smile flashing. "Enough to send that whole bridge to the moon." As they loaded the explosives into a wheelbarrow, the distant bridge kept drawing their eyes. It stood fragile in the orange light, battered but stubborn, like a monument to futility. And yet, in that fragile wooden structure, balanced between two armies, lay the key to everything. They didn't speak much as they worked. There was no need. The mission was clear, and the risk absolute. One misstep, and they'd be shot by either side. One delay, and the gold at Sad Hill would vanish forever, buried beneath someone else's greed. The fuse was ready. The path was set. Blondie lit a match with the side of his boot and looked at Tuco with that same haunted steel in his eyes. Let's go make history. Night had begun its slow crawl across the sky as Blondie and Tuco reached the bridge. The thunder of cannons had quieted slightly, not from peace, but exhaustion. Both Union and Confederate soldiers were catching their breath, too battered to launch another charge. The river glimmered under the fading light, calm and cold, unaware it was about to witness a historic act of sabotage. Crouched beneath the wooden beams, Tuco wiped sweat from his brow, nervously checking the bundle of dynamite for the third time. "This better work," he muttered, "or we're gonna be fish food." Blondie, ever composed, was already planting the charges with surgical precision. "It'll work," he said. "Just remember what side of the river we're running to." Every wooden plank, every nail they touched seemed to creak like it was protesting its fate. The bridge felt like an old warrior, wounded but standing proud. And yet it was about to fall, not to enemy fire, but to two outlaws who needed it gone more than the soldiers did. Once the final fuse was laid, they crawled back to the riverbank. The dynamite string stretched behind them like a long, silent scream, waiting to explode. Blondie struck a match. For a second, everything went quiet. The flame danced along the fuse, a burning thread racing toward destiny. Then, the night shattered. The bridge erupted in a volcanic storm of splinters, fire, and black smoke. A shock wave pulsed through the valley. Soldiers from both sides froze mid-battle, eyes wide, watching the bridge disintegrate in a rain of fire and wood. Horses bolted, men ducked. The river swallowed the falling wreckage like a grave swallowing a coffin. Tuco's laughter cracked through the smoke. "Now that's what I call an exit." Blondie didn't smile. His eyes remained on the burning wreckage, on the chaos he had caused. But somewhere deep inside, he knew, for the first time in days, the path to Sad Hill was finally open. They didn't wait for the dust to settle. They ran. Behind them, the war screamed again, but ahead, gold waited. The smoke from the destroyed bridge still curled into the sky as Blondie and Tuco rode hard through the war-torn land. With the bridge gone, soldiers on both sides were left stunned, their war momentarily paused. But for these two, there was no time to admire their handiwork. The real prize lay ahead. Sad Hill Cemetery, a name whispered like myth, but very, very real. Dust rose behind their galloping horses. The terrain was dry, lifeless, a perfect prelude to what lay ahead. When they finally crested the last hill, Tuco pulled his horse to a stop and stared wide-eyed. There it was. Sad Hill, a massive cemetery carved into the earth like a scar. Thousands of graves stretched in perfect concentric circles, rows upon rows of wooden crosses and nameless stones, the silence of death lingering in the air. It didn't just feel like a graveyard. It felt like death had made a home here and never left. Tuco jumped down and ran among the graves like a madman, eyes scanning every cross. He shouted out names as he passed them. "Ramirez, O'Connell, Stanton. Where's Arch Stanton?" He was almost manic, knowing only that the grave marked Arch Stanton held the treasure. Or so Blondie said. But Blondie. He stood calmly at the edge, watching Tuco scramble. He wasn't in a hurry, not yet. His silence was a shield and a trap. Finally, Tuco found it. The grave of Arch Stanton. "Blondie!" he screamed. "I found it! It's here. Start digging." But Blondie didn't move. He just walked forward slowly, stopping near the center of the graveyard. "You sure that's the right one?" he said with a grin, his eyes cold. "What are you saying?" Tuco snapped. "I'm saying the gold isn't in that grave." Tuco froze. His hands dropped to his sides. "What?" Blondie raised his chin toward the empty space around them. "You'll find it. In the grave marked Unknown." And with that, he dropped a shovel at Tuco's feet. Suddenly, the sound of hooves. A third figure appeared. Angel eyes, alive, armed and smiling. The triangle was now complete. 3 men, one grave, one treasure, one final standoff. And in the middle of a graveyard meant for the forgotten, history was about to be made. The sun hung high above the barren sky, casting sharp shadows across the circular heart of Sad Hill Cemetery. Blondie, Tuco, and Angel Eyes stood at the edges of the stone ring, the open graveyard sprawling around them like an ancient coliseum. There were no words now, just tension so thick it could choke a man. Blondie, cool, unreadable, his poncho barely moving in the breeze. Tuco, nervous, twitching, his eyes darting between the other two, sweat dripping into his collar. Angel Eyes, cold, confident, a killer ready to claim what he thought was his. The three stood still as statues. Their fingers itched near the triggers. Morricone's haunting music would have been fitting if it had been real. Every glance, every breath, every twitch amplified like thunder. Then it began. The camera cut between their eyes, tight shots, every blink a betrayal of nerves. The world stopped spinning, and then gunfire. 3 men moved at once, but only Blondie fired true. His revolver barked twice. Angel Eyes crumpled, hit in the chest and face. He dropped into the dust, his gun clattering beside him, eyes wide in death. Tuco had drawn too, but found himself pointing an unloaded gun. He looked down in horror. Blondie stepped forward slowly, revolver still hot. "You see, Tuco," he said, as calm as ever, "when it comes to shooting, you have to load your gun." Tuco's mouth opened, but no words came. Blondie forced him to dig. Together they uncovered the grave marked Unknown, and there it was, bags of Confederate gold gleaming beneath the dirt. But Blondie wasn't done. He tied Tuco's hands, made him stand on a cross beneath a noose, and threw the rope over a branch, the same fate Tuco had once given him. Then Blondie rode off a short distance. The gold was divided, half left for Tuco, the rest on Blondie's saddle. Tuco screamed, cursing, pleading, and then Blondie's final shot severed the rope. Tuco fell to the ground, free but humiliated. Tuco fell to the ground, free but humiliated. He looked up, gasping, watching Blondie ride into the horizon. As always, the man with no name had the last word. No speeches, no mercy. Just justice, delivered through cold steel and perfect aim.